Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Painter's Block. My name is Pranusha and today we're going to talk about the one and only Winsor & Newton's water-soluble oil paints. Now, oil paints have quite some history and these are no exception. They were used quite a bit during the Renaissance for portraits because oil paints have been around much longer than acrylics. Winsor & Newton was a company that was created as a partnership between William Winsor, a scientist, and Henry Newton. They are actually under a royal warrant, which means they are represented by the Royal Coat of Arms all throughout the UK. They released their first oil colors in 1976, and they released the water-soluble paints in 2000. For a little background to help understand things, oil colors usually are ranked at 3 different levels based on the amount of pigment they have mixed in within the oil. They also are generally very toxic because of the pigments used and the solvents. Therefore, the new water-soluble paints are far less toxic because they have no need for those toxic solvents. But how is this even possible? Well, let's take a look at the ingredients used to find out. Zinc oxide is a major ingredient in oil paints. It's a white solid that has a powdery nature. It is relatively soft with a 4 on the hardness scale, and this pigment has been commonly known as zinc white or Chinese white for, well, its white pigments. It is insoluble in water, however, it is soluble in most acids. One major chemical property that makes it so important as a pigment is the fact that it does not discolor when exposed to light. It is a semiconductor and it absorbs oil, which helps mix the paints. When it reacts with the linseed oil used in oil paints, it hardens and creates a paint film. Although it itself does not discolor, its photoreactivity does cause pigments around it to discolor. It can also react with fatty acids to make a metal salt of an organic acid, otherwise known as a soap. This compound is also produced synthetically, therefore it is inorganic and can combine with inorganic pigments. It also has the ability to maintain large electric fields. Originally, lead oxide was used to make the white pigments in oil paints, but zinc oxide replaced it because lead was obviously way too toxic. There are 2 processes that can be used to create this pigment, nodular or acicular. Nodular is known as the French way and provides a more pure pigment. Acicular, or the American way, provides a less pure pigment. The other major pigment used in these oil paints is diboron trioxide. Diboron trioxide is a compound that has a boiling point of 1,860 degrees Celsius and a melting point of 950 degrees Celsius. These ridiculously high numbers are what gives it its fire-resistant nature. The density of this compound is 2.46 grams per milliliter, making it more dense than water. It is moderately soluble in water, which is the reason the water-soluble oil paints are made possible in the first place. This compound is very difficult to crystallize and has 2 major forms. It can occur as colorless, semi-transparent glassy lumps, or as odorless crystals. It is also water absorbent, which helps balance out the zinc oxide. It does react with water, rather slowly, to form boric acid. It has an ionization potent of 13.5 and it forms majorly polar covalent bonds. This compound is also amorphous and inorganic, which is why it can react with the zinc oxide pigment in the oil paints. To make it a bit more familiar, these ingredients are also found in the following products: heat-resistant glass, electronics, herbicides, enamels, adhesives, sealants, dyes, fragrances, medicines, and in skin protectants and rash treatments. Now let's put it all together. Zinc oxide is used as a pigment in the oil paints. It does not change the color when exposed to light, so the color of the paints are ensured to stay the same. Zinc is one of the 3 elements, lead, titanium, and zinc, that can react with oxygen to form white pigments. Zinc is the least toxic version. Diboron trioxide is used as a binder in the paints. It helps keep the pigments together after adding a solvent. This is especially important in water-soluble oil paints because it can absorb the water before it takes apart the pigments too much. It is also fire-resistant, which helps keep the paint fire-resistant. However, this property is also what makes the diboron trioxide a major health hazard. It is very dangerous and poisonous. Some benefits of these oil paints are that because they are water-soluble and use zinc oxide, they are not nearly as toxic as other oil paints. Therefore, they can be used in high school classrooms. Unfortunately, the use of diboron trioxide is still very controversial because of the many health hazards that come with it. In fact, the use of diboron trioxide has been restricted in the UK because it can be fatal if consumed. It can also cause comas, vomiting, and rashes. But what makes Winsor & Newton water-soluble oil paint special? These paints are the very first alkyd oil colors, and they cut painting time nearly in half for artists. Winsor & Newton also have chemists on site to help bring their artist dreams to life. Oil paints also generally require the use of a specific brush with specialized bristles to help the paint apply better, and this is because the oil paints have special compositions. All in all, Winsor & Newton water-soluble oil paints are the best on the block. Everything from the ingredients to the application is near perfection. No wonder those guys have a royal warrant. I mean, sure, they might have a few toxins, but what doesn't these days? 10 out of 10, I'd recommend them. Well, I guess that's it for today. I'm Pranusha Bethy, and you've been listening to Painter's Block.